Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be breaking down some of my favorite cash game plays for this Week 4 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of my cheat sheet, breaking down some of my favorite cash game plays here for this Week 4 NFL DraftKings main slate. But before we dive into the quarterbacks here, everyone, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave truly does help me out, and it's completely free to do. Speaking of free, I do run a free Discord channel as well. You can see that mentioned above. We have over 850 people in there right now talking multiple different sports for DFS and sports betting. If you want to join that, there's a link to do so in the description below, as well as in the pinned comment below. With that being said, let's dive into the quarterbacks here. And if you watched my first look video earlier this week, I talked about how there's a lot of value here at the quarterback position in the 5K range for both cash games and tournaments. And I will be posting my favorite tournament plays video immediately following this, so make sure you tune into that as well. You could probably talk me into playing Josh Allen here in my cash lineup. Really good matchup for the Bills at home against the New Orleans Saints. He's priced in the upper 7K range. We know the floor and ceiling that he brings week in and week out, but I've built a number of different mock cash lineups here prior to recording this, and I always end up here in the 5K range when it comes to my quarterback. And I really like this game between the Bears and Raiders. You can see I got both Caleb Williams and Geno Smith listed here. I would prefer to go with Caleb Williams. I like what I've seen from him in the first 3 weeks. Think he's just going to get more comfortable in this Ben Johnson offense, and I like the rushing upside he's provided through 3 games as well. If I need that $400 in savings, and I very well could, I am absolutely comfortable going to Geno Smith here. You got some easy, cheap pass catchers you could stack him with in both cash games and tournaments, but I do want to highlight Drake May here at home in a good matchup against Carolina. Just like Caleb Williams, I love the rushing upside that May has provided through 3 games. Kind of been sneaky, and I've mentioned that in a couple of my videos already this year, but $5,500, I think he's just a bit too cheap, and I think he's cash game viable once again. Talked about him last week, and I actually played him in my cash lineup last week, so I'm comfortable going back to that. Next, we got the running backs here, and Christian McCaffrey is my preferred running back play if I'm going to spend up here. Jonathan Taylor has been absolutely fantastic through 3 games, his last 2 games in particular. I can't say I love the matchup here against the Rams. That defensive line for the Rams has been lights out through 3 games themselves. Best rushing defense through 3 weeks. Jonathan Taylor is special, though, and he really can be a 3x guy in any given game. He could hit 21 DraftKings points here, and I would not be surprised. But again, if I'm going to spend up here this week, I prefer to get to Christian McCaffrey. James Cook, I almost put him as a favorite play myself. I just have a little concern in that game that it gets out of hand. The Bills really don't need to play their starters in the second half. New Orleans is playing catch-up. So I'm going to look into that one just a little bit more here. I do think both these guys need to be considered when it comes to your cash lineup this week. But then you look at the value here in the 5K range with Omari and Hampton and Scadaboo, and it's hard to ignore that. Now, I know both these guys are playing in the same game here. I usually don't love rostering 2 running backs from the same game, but considering both these guys showed really nice pass-catching upside in Week 3 in particular, obviously with Najee Harris going out in that Achilles injury, put Hampton on the field a bit more, but he looked good in the passing game. And then really the same thing here with Scadaboo. Once we saw Tyrone Tracy leave in Week 3 with that shoulder injury, it forced Scadaboo on the field, and he looked really good in the passing game as well. So again, I wouldn't normally roster 2 running backs in the same game in my cash lineup, but considering the pass-catching upside and price that both these guys have right now, I do think it's worth considering. Now, before we dive into the wide receivers, everyone, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Again, it's completely free to do. Every like, sub, and comment that you guys leave here on this channel truly does help me out. So again, thank you all for doing that. Now, when it comes to the wide receivers here, you can see I got both Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams listed. I am okay rostering either one in my cash lineup, but if I have the money, everyone, it's Puka Nacua for me. He's been the best wide receiver through 3 weeks so far this season. He's getting close to 10-plus targets a game. I don't foresee that changing week in and week out. And I like the matchup here against the Indianapolis Colts. I kind of like this game in general. Think there's some shootout potential there. I'll actually talk about that in my tournament plays video. But Puka Nacua, again, just an alpha been truly dominant through 3 weeks, and I'll go back to him once again this week. Now, Drake London here, I know he's been a little underwhelming through 3 games, maybe very underwhelming. We had higher expectations with Michael Penix under center, and really this Atlanta offense in general coming into this season. We heard throughout training camp how he could lead all wide receivers in targets this year, and again, been underwhelming through 3 weeks, but this seems like it could be a solid get-right spot for him back at home here against the Washington Commanders. Commanders are coming in a bit beat up, especially on offense right now, to where Atlanta could have the ball quite a bit in the possession time in this game. And really at $5,700 here, considering the upside he offers, London looks pretty good in this spot. So I understand if you're going, hey man, I don't like what I've seen in 3 games here. I don't want to put that in my cash lineup, maybe more of a tournament play. I understand it, but I've come to the conclusion that he is a cash game play for me. And then Jacoby Myers here, I talked about how I like this game between the Raiders and Bears. This Bears secondary is not very good, missing their top cornerback in Jalen Johnson. And I know Trey Tucker went bonkers for the Raiders last week, but Myers is still the number 1 wide receiver in this offense. Maybe number 2 pass catcher behind Brock Bowers, and he did practice in full here this week. But I do like the price tag here at $5,400, considering the upside he offers and the matchup there against Chicago. Now, going back to this game here between the Rams and Colts, if you want to save, $1,700 off of Puka Nacua, I think Devontae Adams is completely okay in a cash lineup. I like him a little bit more when it comes to tournaments and maybe doing a game stack there, but overall, the upside again is just too great considering the price. He was, however, a bit limited in practice this week, so keep an eye on that. And then Keenan Allen honestly almost made one of my favorite plays here. I like Hampton just a little bit more considering the game script we're expecting in that game against the Giants, but Keenan Allen has hit 17 plus DraftKings points in all 3 games so far this year, getting 7 plus targets per game. Wide receiver number 2, I guess you could kind of call him in this offense. Quentin Johnston's been really good, and there's still Ladd McConkey there, but I think Keenan Allen should be priced at $6,000 considering how he's performed through 3 weeks, so I think we're getting him at a discount. Like I said, I like Hampton in my cash lineup, but Keenan Allen needs to be in that mix too. Now, when it comes to the tight ends this week, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I do think there's some solid value in the 3K range if you wanted to go that route, but honestly, this 4K range, in my opinion, is offering a lot of upside. I think some of these guys should be priced a little bit higher, especially Tyler Warren here. If I can get to him at $4,600, I prefer to go that route in my cash lineup. I do, however, think Hunter Henry is very viable as well. Looked very good last week, obviously. 29 DraftKings points, scored 2 touchdowns, and I like the matchup here at home against Carolina. Juwan Johnson, this is a game where the Saints are likely playing from behind most, if not all, of the game, and he has been a target monster for Spencer Rattler. I don't necessarily love the matchup against the Bills, but again, considering the game script we're expecting and the Saints playing from behind, this could be another game where he sees 7 plus targets. And then I'm going to keep it simple here with the defense this week as well. If I can get up to the Houston Texans, I really do prefer to go that route. Back at home here, going up against a rookie quarterback in Cam Ward, who's taken 15 sacks through 3 games now, I believe. This defensive line and the edge rusher should be able to create pressure against Cam Ward and probably force a couple of turnovers in that game as well. We got word here just before I started recording that both Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin are not going to play here in Week 4 for the Washington Commanders. So that made me put the Falcons in here at $2,700 if I'm looking to save some money. I think the Patriots at home against Carolina are in play. And then the Titans here, $2,300 if I'm kind of just looking to punt and save some money. I don't mind them on the other side of that game against Houston. The Houston Texans offensive line is not very good, and that offense in general has been a bit underwhelming through 3 weeks themselves. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Let's have ourselves a great weekend here, folks, and let's win some money on this Week 4 NFL main slate.